Hi, I'm Marin. I'm 44 years old, and my story starts when I was 4 years old. I witnessed my dad cheating on my mom, and that had a big effect on me. That was something that my parents worked through, but they worked through it privately. They did not work through it with me. So I was left kind of basically wounded from that experience without having any kind of resolution. And then shortly after that, I was molested for a period of time by an older girl in my neighborhood. The first time I was exposed to pornography was around the age of 6, I think, 6 or 7, by a next door neighbor. And I can remember seeing those images and being very confused about what I was seeing, but strangely curious as well. By the time I got into about 4th grade, I started seeking sexual attention from boys in school, thinking that that was how I would find my worth, and if there was any value in me, it would have to be if a boy tried to do anything with me sexually. So by the time I was in 5th grade, I started using drugs, started smoking pot in 5th grade, and then experimenting with other drugs, whatever kind of came my way. After that, ended up getting pregnant in high school, went into Planned Parenthood, and I was 15, and I told them, I feel like I'm too young to have a baby. I don't think I'm mature enough, and they encouraged me to have the abortion. They said that they were really proud of me, that that was a very mature thing to decide to do. And I came home that day from the abortion and didn't feel anything from the experience, was basically numb and desensitized to what I had done. And I was in my bed recovering, and my younger sister, who is 3.5 years younger than me, she came in, and I told her I had just had an abortion, and she, it always makes me cry, she started crying, and I was so caught off guard by her emotions, and I said, "What are you crying for?" And she said, "Marin, that was one of my nieces or nephews." And I remember thinking, that's so strange that she's so emotional about this, because I don't feel anything. After graduating from school, I'm now living downtown and excited to show my parents that I can be a successful individual. So I quickly got a boyfriend, let him move right in. I did not know this at the time, but he had just gotten out of prison, so he was an ex-felon. He was a crack addict, cooking up crack in my apartment. I didn't know that that's what he was doing. And he was bringing women into my apartment and having sex with them in my bed. And when I found out, I confronted him on it, and I slapped him across the face, and he proceeded to beat me up really bad. Gave me a concussion, and I ended up in the hospital after what he did. Shortly after that, I found out that I was pregnant by him as well. I chose to abort this baby too, and that night after the abortion, later that day, he broke into my apartment and raped me. When that happened, I was sent into a deep depression. I lost my job, I got evicted from my apartment, and my car got repossessed, all within the same amount of time. Then my mom, she didn't know everything that had happened to me, but she could see kind of how I was living my life, and it was so scary to her and so troubling. So she wrote me a letter telling me that I was going to be disowned from the family because of how I was living. And when I read that letter sent me into more darkness than I had been in up to that point. It was really hard to read through that letter. It took me 2 times to try to get through it. And by the time I finally finished reading it, I heard the enemy say to me in my ear, I heard him say, "You are a woman and there is that industry." And up to that point, I had never considered getting involved in the sex industry at all. Thought, okay, I guess I can do that. Nobody will know what I've been through. I can pick myself up financially and nobody will ever know. So I decided to do it. I decided to get a job in a strip club as a waitress. And my plan was to do it for 2 weeks. Within about a month and a half, I ended up going to Taiwan to work. I didn't realize until I got to Taiwan that I would be working for the mafia and that they would have complete ownership of me. The club would always get raided because we were working there illegally without a visa for the mafia. The owners would hide us down these different passageways and tunnels and secret doorways and secret elevators, so we would be able to miss the police when they would come in. But one of the times we weren't able to avoid it, so we did get arrested and put in jail in Taiwan for about 10 days and had to have the embassy get us out and bring us back to America. So with all of that, it didn't even scare me to stop doing that kind of work. So when I came back home, I continued working in the strip club. I had a regular job as well, to basically as a cover so that my family and friends, nobody would know what I was doing. So I was living a double life, living this lifestyle that was extremely dangerous, very high risk, and I ended up getting really involved with drugs and very addicted to pills, primarily Oxycontin. I had a habit of $300 to $500 a day in pills. I would get so high that sometimes I would be afraid to fall asleep because I thought I was gonna die for sure. I would be afraid that I wouldn't be able to wake up. So at 24, I had another boyfriend and let him move in, and realized real quickly that it was not a good relationship. He was not good for me. I told him I wanted to break up and I wanted him to move out, and he grabbed a straight razor and held me down by my throat and held it up to my face and told me he would cut me up into tiny pieces if I broke up with him. So I was able to get him off of me, and I ran out of my apartment to try to get help, and he ran after me crying, begging me not to tell anybody, begging me not to call the police, and telling me he loves me, he wants me to have his baby. He ended up getting me back into my apartment and got me pregnant. So here I am now 24 and pregnant again, and this time I choose to keep the baby. About a year later, I was cleaning my apartment, and my daughter was a year old and she was taking a nap, and I found a book from one of my mom's Christian friends that I never opened because it bothered me that it was from a Christian. And as I'm looking at the book, the energy in this apartment that I was in started to change. It felt scary to me, and I felt very afraid. And I started to think, oh my gosh, there's a ghost or something in this apartment, because I could feel something was there. It went from feeling scary to feeling peaceful, and the colors in the room went from gray and drab to a golden hue and a pinkish hue that the only way I can describe the color is the color of love. And this love was so overwhelming and so pure and so beautiful that the only thing that I could think was, I wondered, is this you, God? Which was a strange thought for me because I had never thought about God or considered him, but I wondered if this was him. He smiled at me just like you would smile at a little child who asks you a really sweet, naive question. And he said, yes, it's me. I've been here the whole time, and I will be here the whole time. And I just started sobbing and sobbing. It was the most profound experience. The thing is I was in such a dark place that I thought that was meant for my daughter. I didn't think it was actually meant for me. I didn't realize that God was speaking to me about the fact that He loves me. Then I started escorting and seeing clients outside of work, and was making so much money, too much money. And I was able to justify what I was doing by how much money I was making. The more money I made, the more drugs I bought. The addiction got really, really bad. And I'm doing all of this, living this life, while I'm raising a daughter and trying to hide from her what I'm doing and who I really am. Being very afraid that if anybody saw who I truly am, that they would know that I'm not worth loving. I'm getting older and having hundreds and hundreds of sleepless nights wondering, how am I ever going to stop doing this job? I had been in such a state of feeling hopeless and basically miserable. I'm 41 at this point. I glanced at the Bible and I thought, well, I guess I have nothing to lose now. So I picked up the Bible and I looked in the back in the concordance to look for a word that would describe how I was feeling. And I didn't even know how I was feeling because I didn't have any thoughts, I didn't have any emotions. I was very much aware at this point in life of the fact that I was spiritually dead. I had nothing inside of me, nothing. And it was a very scary and sickening feeling. But God led me to a particular word, which led me to a verse and a scripture verse, and I read it, and I'm grasping everything that it's saying to me, everything that God is showing me. And I'm realizing that I had been surrounding myself with false idols, and everything that I had done in my life was being revealed to me through this scripture verse. And I'm reading it and I'm feeling this heat come in through the top of my head and wash over my body and over my heart and literally make me brand new. And I'm no longer in the dark anymore. I'm in the light, and I am alive for the first time in my entire life. God then shows me exactly who I am, which is I'm His precious daughter. And He shows me that everything that I had been through in my life was not purposeless, it was all purposeful, and that He was with me through it all, and that everything that the enemy purposed for evil, God was actually going to use and turn it for good and to glorify Him. He scooped me up out of darkness and said, you know what, you're done. You're mine. And I'm, not only are you mine, but I'm going to take you out of this darkness and I'm going to turn you back into it, and I want you to take my light with you and shine my light back in. And I want you to share me with people. I want you to tell people that there's more. He wants people to understand His desire for them and His pursuit of them, and that He's never far. He's always right with us. Up till that moment, I had been in the life for 22 years and addicted to drugs since 5th grade. In that split second, I was instantly freed from drug addiction, and in that moment, I was able to take my work bag from being in the life, my shoes, my costumes, all of that, and throw it away. From that moment on, I have been falling deeper and deeper and deeper in love with the Lord every day, and glorifying Him in every opportunity that I can, and working with young girls who've been commercially sexually exploited and adult women, and it's very humbling and an enormous honor and a privilege. So now my passion is to speak truth and to speak life and to speak love into people, and to help equip the young girls that I work with and the women, help them to see who they truly are, who God actually designed them to be, and to literally kind of walk alongside them and help them navigate their journey in discovering who they are and finding their way out of exploitation. Please don't view girls or women who are promiscuous or who are in this life as bad and dirty and throwaways, because they're not. Something, oftentimes many things have happened to them that have set the stage and sent them into this lifestyle. And not only has their individual unique experiences set the stage and pushed them in this direction, our society as a whole grooms little girls and little boys to become over-sexualized. And that is with the clothing and with media, with music. In today's age, prostitution basically and pimping is glorified. Everybody is affected by this in some way, shape, or form. And it's important to be educated on this, to have your eyes open to what is going on, because once you see what is really happening and you are aware of the truth, you can't unknow it, and then you are compelled to do something about it, and something can be done about it, because this is not what we were created for. Human beings have an intrinsic value that is being disrespected and not recognized or appreciated in sexual exploitation.